Alright, so this is going to be a demonstration on how to look for your photos or your photo references that you will use for your photo manipulation project, the ordinary to extraordinary project that we're working on. So, at this point now, you should have completed your thumbnail sketches. So again, your thumbnail sketches, again, it's just basic ideas of things that you want to do. So, these are like the examples I had for the idea that I want to do for my ordinary to extraordinary assignment. Again, we just, drew some like quick ideas, but nothing's like completely fleshed out, but it's just basic ideas that we're going to do. So, I actually wanted to follow along with this idea of like the postcard and airplane going into this postcard. And it's just this basic idea of something I want to do with the photos in Photoshop with the photo manipulations. But after choosing this idea, though, I did want you to make a more detailed, rough sketch. What you really wanted to specifically do. So, in the case of my rough sketch, this is what I ended up with. So, I still have that part of the postcard. And this time I wanted the postcard to be held by a hand. I actually had to move this down a little bit more. I didn't mean for it to crop out of the picture. But there's like an airplane going into this postcard here. And I actually wanted to play around with the idea of, this idea of, having like this polluted background with trash on the bottom. There's, slime or sewage coming out of from underwater over here. And then also some oil rigs in the background here. I was kind of like heavily influenced by uh, I forgot the artist's name, but it was it's basically an artist that did like this like image of like a beach, and he had like oil rigs and spills in the back, and it kind of like demonstrated the idea that we're like polluting the earth. Climate change is happening. But just to make it short though, I was kind of inspired by the work, but I wanted to show like the beauty in the postcard of what it used to look, and then compare it to like what it is now with uh, you know climate change and pollution being an epidemic in the world today. So I didn't really, I kind of changed up my idea a little bit, but this is kind of like what I came up with. But it's okay to always change up your ideas a little bit more as you flesh out your rough sketch. All right, but now I have more like solidified things to use to create my picture, and I actually wanted this part of my image to be submerged into water. So this is like where we're gonna start to look up your images. So basically you're just gonna do a Google search. Let's go on to Google, and we're gonna do a Google search. So first thing that I would probably look up in this picture, because I think this is like the most important part, is like a hand holding a postcard. So basically just type in what you want to look for: hand holding a postcard. So it's as simple as that to look up your images. Alright, so I'm gonna look up my images here, and I have a lot of different various ways of like the hand holding the postcard here. So real important though, I want you to pay attention to this number down here. This is basically the resolution of your image. So you don't want to find images that are too small. Like this one's way too small. And again, if you want to look for like similar pictures, you can always click on these other ones to see how they look. Well, another thing to be really skeptical about too, if your image looks really blurry, part of the reason why is the school blocks or in some cases the school may block the website, but for some reason that wasn't blocked. But like even this one's a little bit blurry. If I visit the page, it says it can't reach it. So part of the reason why that happens is the school blocks some of these websites. So it's gonna be kind of like a little bit hard to find like the correct images. But you can always view more if you want to find things that are very similar to the way this is held. And when you click on view more, this will give you some more options for pictures. But do really pay close attention to the resolution. And I'm gonna hit back because I want to look at some more of these versions. But if you play around with the tools on Photoshop or on Google, you can actually set it up where you're only looking up for large size images. And I do recommend clicking on this tools, changing it to large. That way it'll filter out and add more of like the bigger images, so you can see like the resolution's a lot higher on these images. But again, the school blocks some of these websites, so you might be really limited to what you can choose. Another thing too that I think is really interesting is you have like different colors you can choose, the type, and also usage of rights. So this is like real important because like for this particular assignment, we're using these photos to kind of like learn more and experiment with Photoshop. So it's fine if you take images from other people to use it as like a practice assignment. But do keep in mind though, if your artwork looks really nice, or if you happen to sell the work, then you have to ask permission from wherever you got the photo from to use your picture. Anything that deals with like money though, you want to make sure to have permission. But in some cases though, if you click on like labeled non-commercial reuse, I think this is the one you can click on. And again, it doesn't really give you any options, but basically these are like images you can use where they won't. I want to say they won't go after you if you made money with the picture. But again, you want to just be really careful with that though. But I'm not going to use this just because again, this is just a practice assignment. I don't really expect to make money off of this. But that's just something to keep in mind of in the future. You want to look through these images and try to find like the one that works best. I think I ended up using this picture here just because this is a high resolution. It looks very clear, so I ended up picking this photo here. But you want to really take your time and look for like the perfect image that you want to use, because a lot of these, again, this one's really blurry. They just won't work with the pictures. So you want to find images. So just remember we're gonna like follow like the same rubric with the practice assignment. So I do want you to find five or use at least 5 different photos, and I can show you like the best way of doing it. So eventually I ended up finding these images here. Find my folder. Kind of disappeared. Oh, here we go. Postcard. So these are the images that I ended up with for my idea. I'm just gonna click in. Oh, that's not part of it. I'm gonna click and drag and show you the images that I found. So I found like this postcard picture, and then these are like different images that I'm using for my background. So in order to meet that requirement though of the 5 or 6 images, probably the best way to go about with the approach is I would use a couple of separate images to basically construct your background of the photo. So if you look at these pictures here, like the sky, the ocean, the under the ocean, the postcard, and the hand. So this is basically almost using, and this texture here too, this is basically using 5 images already, and the hand too, that's 6. This is like what I ended up with. So this is like the background picture that I used. So if you look at it carefully though, I cut apart the bottom of the ocean. I cut the middle part of the ocean, kind of use that as like the top of the ocean here to kind of create like a submerge effect, and then I use the clouds up here. But if you look at my sketch though, I'm kind of trying to go with this idea here. I was gonna add more trash on the bottom. Maybe I might take that up because I don't really have like a mountain here. But you always have to change up things as you convert your drawing into a photograph, because this is challenging. It's not easy, and obviously this isn't like the same exact hand that I have here. It's at a different angle. So I'm gonna have to change up the image a little bit more, but this is kind of like what I came up with so far in the Photoshop assignment. But it follows similar characteristics to the what I had for my rough sketch. But my hand is bigger. The card's a little bit bigger too. So I was just playing around with some of the filters, but if you look at here, I'm using like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So this is like almost like 5 or 6 images already. Actually, this is actually the background reconstructed again. But you can see how like it's starting to kind of come together. Um, probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have like more of like the beach here, and this is gonna be more oil rigs on this side. So I had to change up my composition a little bit. I'm probably not gonna have I mean, I'm gonna have the plane flying in this direction, but it's just a lot of playing around with. But you still want to try like follow the idea that you planned out still. But there's always gonna be some changes or variations depending on like um, what you're doing. So another thing too is you might have to do this with your particular photos depending on what you're specifically doing. Like I didn't really know how to do this water submerge idea, but if I hide these layers, you can kind of see how it's like coming together in the photograph. So I'm actually gonna hide a lot of these layers just to show you what's happening. So like the way I did it was, I started off of my sky image, and then the bottom I cut part of the bottom ocean that I did, and then in between the picture I added the water. Let me find where I put the water. Yeah, I put the water right here, and I did like a fade effect on the edges. So like like this is like something that it may have taken me a while to do if I were to really think about it, but you can use the internet as a resource though. So like for example, if you're not sure of how to do certain things, you can always look up on YouTube. And it really took me a while to find the search, but it was basically like submerging water and water photo manipulation. So I did have to do a little bit of research to find out how to do this idea, and kind of like skim through the video. But sometimes you might want to look at the whole video to kind of get like an idea of what you're going to do. But I basically just skimmed over and saw what he did. But basically he just like cut the background of the photo. And if you saw, he like cut out part of the top of the ocean in this picture here. And I'm just kind of trying to do like the same thing that he did. So and then he also did like a fade effect with the blue to kind of create that water effect. And he used like the fuzzy brush to do the edges. So in this project, you really don't have to reinvent the wheel or try to like refigure out how to do these different effects. A lot of these effects are already, people have already done them in on the internet, or or done similar things to it. So it doesn't hurt to look up and research certain ways with how they do it in Photoshop. But I can always help you out with looking up these things, or if I know how to do it personally, I can explain it to you on how to do it. But those of you that are in computer graphics too, or that are really comfortable with the cutting out the images, I do recommend trying to challenge yourself and do something a little bit differently than what you did from the assignment before, which was just like bare minimum was just cutting out the images. But you can always look up ideas and see how certain people do certain things. I think it's really interesting though how like people do different things though, because there's always gonna be one way that I'm gonna show you how to do this way, but other people do it in many different ways. And a lot of these videos that are on that are on the internet, they actually may do like a better job of explaining it than me. And some other videos they might do a worse job. So it's kind of just like a pick and choose thing. All right, but again, use the internet as your resource. Today's more of like a research, look up your images, and if you're not happy with images, you can always change them up too. So don't feel like you're kind of set in stone with the specific photos that you chose. So if I didn't like how the sky looked, like the sky picture that I picked it cloudy on purpose just because I wanted smog to go into the air. You can always change it up though.